Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from WhatCulture.
And I'm the guy with a spiky face from Mudvayne. And coming up today, I'm going to tell you all about WWE's new direction with regards to their booking process. We've also got an update on the new Chaos stable. Their name has been revealed. And on top of all of that, the location for SummerSlam 2020 may have been revealed as well.
Plus, WWE's plans for Raw Underground. Did Shane McMahon help Raw's ratings? And 2 NXT stars could be heading to SmackDown to help out King Corbin. This is the news.
Right, let's see if we can keep this goddamn train on the rails today. Chances, I would say, are very slim. Let's talk a little bit about WWE's new booking mentality, or should I say old booking mentality, because it's ass backwards. There's a report here from Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio, talking about what they're doing on Raw at the moment, what's going on across the company. Basically, what WWE are apparently trying to do right now is look at what worked for them in the 90s. The Attitude Era, of course, being the company's most prosperous, prominent, successful period ever. They're looking at what worked there and they're trying to emulate it in the modern settings. So apparently, with regards to Raw, a lot of this week's process was just throwing a bunch of ideas at the wall and seeing what stuck. I think that came across on the show. There was a lot of things that were just all over the place on that episode. Whether you liked it or not, it was a kind of messy show.
No.
A mess? Yeah, there we go. And a mess can be good sometimes, but taste is subjective, and yes. So that would kind of explain why they tried to make things look a little dirtier, a little grittier perhaps, with the Underground. You know, we had Shane McMahon's return, which is of course a nostalgia thing. The Chaos stable, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It felt kind of like WWE were trying to add a little bit of edginess back to a product that a lot of people think is a little bit too safe, a little bit too sanitized, and have felt that way for a long time. The problem with that, I think, subjectively, like I said yesterday, is that it's kind of like Disney trying to make a slasher movie. It's kind of tough when you've got this PG rating and your production style is so glossy and shiny, and Kevin Dunn's sitting there flipping camera angles every second because he's absolutely mental. You know, anything that is a slight change from the norm, I think, is going to be celebrated by a lot of people. People want stuff that's different. Different doesn't automatically mean good, though, and it's quite difficult to translate ideas that worked 20 odd years ago into today's setting, because society has moved on from a lot of what worked back in the day. The shock tactics don't really have the same effect. In fact, if you move towards the edgiest content of the Attitude Era, you're rightly going to get your ass cancelled, because a lot of that stuff was, it's aged like milk left in the sun, is what I'd say about that. So, you know, maybe more stuff will come of this. I'll tell you one thing that did work in the 90s, and they should definitely look to do again. Gangrel. There you go.
I was literally about to say that. Your boy's getting more and more likely to return as the days pass if they're going back. I just love the fact that I do the whole, oh, what about the Attitude Era, as a joke, and they've gone, no, actually, what about the Attitude Era? And the fact that, as you said, it's a great decade in our memories, but a lot of stuff, if you go back and rewatch it, like everyone was up in arms about old episodes of Friends, weren't they, on Netflix a while back? And then, you know, if you go back, like, for example, I am quite obviously a huge fan of Jim Carrey, but you go back and watch Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, and oh, there's some bits that you think, wow, that really wouldn't fly in 2020. Yeah, and also trust WWE, who presumably are trying to attract a younger audience. That's got to be the, you know, like you say, 18 to 49 demographic, etc. Referencing, as you said, a decade that's over 20 odd years ago. Okay? Yeah. I mean, why don't they just look at what's popular now in pop culture and then maybe try and, you know, weave that into storylines, rather than just having, you know, Jeremy Piven show up as a guest host now and again.
Yeah, the thing with current wrestling is the aging audience is a major problem. The reason that these like nostalgia gimmicks like Shane's return, like you're going to talk about in a little bit, pop numbers, is because it's people that the core fan base, the core viewership knows from watching them for 20, 30 years. Because the average WWE viewer, I believe, is aged over 50. So it's kind of a crazy thing to think that they're catering more towards that audience and not younger people who could conceivably be with the company for like their whole lives. If you're 15 years old and you latch onto this show and they give you something that you really enjoy, you could be a fan for life. So for me, the big flaw of modern wrestling has always been their inability to kind of attract people in that age group. And you think they do more to appeal to that age group. I don't know what that involves. I'm not a marketing person. I haven't done market research. Billie Eilish, probably. She's a thing. Detective Pikachu, I don't know. Just, hire a market research team, really tap into what people are looking for these days, particularly in those age groups, trying to appeal to those more. We always hear from people that this is a young person's product, it's for the kids, and yet the kids are the people that this product fails the most. Look at last week's numbers, an 80% decline on female teenagers from start to finish, 52% for male teenagers from start to finish on Raw. Is it a young person's product? Are they really aiming this at children? Stories like this say otherwise.
I don't want to trigger WWE fans, but if you just take a look at what AEW have done to make stars out of the likes of Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, MJF, like, yes, they obviously have your old school stars, your Chris Jerichos, etc. But there's a reason why we've seen, when we had crowds, kids in the crowd dressed as Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, because they've made them feel special, unique, and actually allowed them to get a bit of a, winning streak behind them. Although Darby Allin did lose a fair few times, you can all make that argument. But still, just make new stars. And you don't do that by 50-50 booking them or bringing someone like Mustafa Ali back, who's so talented and exciting and unique, and going, right, win your first week back and then lose your second week back, and then you're not there the third week. It's really easy. Or it just strikes me that it should be a lot easier than they are making it. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about Raw Underground, of course. We mentioned it a little bit earlier on, and according to Fightful Select, WWE have taped a whole load more of Shane McMahon's Fight Club. Apparently they were taping until midnight on Monday with the dingy basement stuff sort of thing. So that could be stocked up for weeks on end, so expect to see lots more of the Raw Underground stuff, possibly with the Hurt Business, of course, involved. Interesting to find out that that report also mentions that they considered quite a few different people to be the host of Raw Underground until they landed on Shane McMahon. So let us know in the comments or on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Who did they pass over as host for Raw Underground before they thought, nah, Shane McMahon's our guy?
Yeah, Shane was an interesting choice. Presumably they went in for this nostalgia fact, and I messed that sentence up. Presumably they went for him because of the nostalgia part of it, and Shane likes mixed martial arts and stuff. But it was, we said this again yesterday, he's a billionaire son of a billionaire who can't throw a worked punch. So having him throw up this shoot-style underground Fight Club thing is so strange. Samoa Joe, we spoke about yesterday as well, would be a tremendous choice. But, I guess they've gone with what they know, in essence, with this. And hey, thinking about this last night, maybe this could be a good thing if it allows the emergence of some new stars, the thing we're always crying out for. Dabba-Kato was presented as very dominant in his segment there, the former Babatunde. You might remember him from the Greatest Royal Rumble. He's a big, beefy lad with a good look and, a significant threat level. Maybe it'll be a good vehicle for the Hurt Business as well. Their win-loss record kind of sucks since coming together. It's the same as Zelina Vega's stable was in that regard. But if they're kind of like the end bosses of this thing, I don't know, man. I think I'm turning a corner on the goddamn Underground. I still think it's really weird. And dancers, why are they there? Strange. The sepia filter, okay. But who knows, man? Maybe it can be good. What's wrong with me, Adam? Heal me.
No,
please.
Like I said, I couldn't look away from the Raw Underground, and I've said this so much in the past few months with regards to WWE, morbidly fascinated to see what they do next.
Speaking of things that happen next, this is the third story. I'm a shambles. The Chaos Stable that arrived on Raw. So this was advertised ahead of time. Several outlets came out with reports saying, hey, WWE's debuting a new faction tonight. That should be cool. And WWE decided to kind of jump on that story and then advertise it themselves. New faction arriving on Raw. There's going to be chaos everywhere. And, you know, it was more mild tomfoolery than chaos. They messed around with the lights and cut microphones and tipped over a box. So, and they blew up a generator as well.
Yeah.
But we now have a name for that stable. WWE.com have produced a write-up. The stable's called Retribution! The reason I'm shouting it is because it's all in capital letters, so that's how you're supposed to say it. Anyway, we don't know anything else about Retribution, as was noted on WWE.com. There's no hints towards who might be involved, although, you know, that last shot of them blowing up the generator, it looked like there was 5 of them, dressed like Akira Tozawa's ninjas, with the all-black attire and the hoods and so forth. Dominik Dijakovic has been speculated. He did some wacky things with his social media accounts over the past few days. Everything went black. He deleted a bunch of posts. He posted some cryptic stuff like, ooh, ghosts. But yeah, Retribution, Retribution is going to be the stable name going forward. Justus, like Justice, spelled with a U and an S, was reported beforehand. That's been trademarked by WWE, but it looks like they're going with the other option. I'm not going to shout it again. Sorry, neighbours. I know it's early. You're just through that wall. I love you, really. Don't pee on my doormat. What do you think of this, Adam?
It's better than Just Us. That was dreadful.
Yeah.
I didn't like Retribution when you first said it. I literally said Alpha.
Say it. Adam, say it properly.
But, sorry, Retribution!
There we go.
But I'm already sort of warming to it. It depends. Like, Undisputed is a great name. And the way they could work it in, like, I'm the champion, or we're the best, you know, team on this roster, and that is Undisputed. They're going to hammer it. They're going to shove it down your throats for the next few months. So just learn to like the taste of it, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm okay with it. The capitalization's kind of odd, but I mean, if it means everyone just shouts it all the time, that could be some fun car crash TV. I guess
it's not as bad as when I used to have to try and remember not how they spelt sanity, but how they wrote sanity.
Oh, that was wacky, wasn't it?
Pain
It
in the arse.
was like a 13-year-old's MSN messenger name with the random capitalizations. I'm surprised there wasn't a goddamn emoji at the end of sanity.
I've got it. Retribution, all caps, and in Comic Sans. There you go.
Ah, there we go. By the way, have you seen that? This is a total tangent, but there's a WWE pay-per-view from like 2004. I think it's No Way Out, where they had all of the nameplates, everything in Comic Sans.
Oh,
it's
no.
so weird. Brock Lesnar's walking out and he's got his music and and he's flexing, he's looking all intimidating, he's ready to beat someone up, and then his name's in Comic Sans, so it's like, oh, Brock Lesnar's here. Wacky. Find that. I found it on Reddit like yesterday. Have a look. It's weird.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have to go and check that out. Another news story for you today, that Shane McMahon is a huge draw. Well, sort of. He is definitely a draw for Monday Night Raw, because Raw posted an increase of approximately 90,000 overall viewers on the previous week, this week, hitting an average of 1.71 across its 3 hours. That breaks down to 1.71 for the first hour, 1.82 for hour 2, and 1.61 for hour 3. As far as the 18 to 49 demographic, 0.51 rating, which is slightly up on the 0.48 of the previous week. The second hour was the one where we first got introduced to Raw Underground and Shane McMahon and all that bollocks, and of course Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton's segment. Be interested to see how that breaks down once the quarter hours are released, but like I said, Shane McMahon's a draw, Andy Murray.
It was a well-marketed show. They created a lot of interest, increased levels of interest around it, with announcing that the faction was going to debut and Shane's return, and the idea that something big was going to happen that turned out to be the Underground. And then when the show hit the airwaves, there was a lot of marketing in that second hour for the Underground, and then the Underground debuted towards the end of it. So they did a good job of marketing this week and generating excitement levels. And the challenge, as always, is whether or not that carries over to the next week, which is always very difficult. Now they've got like 700 different American sports, including the one where you hit the ball with the bat, and the one where you put it in a bin that's on a big pole with some glass, LeBron, gym, stuff like that. But it's a tough market at the moment. It's a tough situation. They did a good job this week. Credit where it's due. However, this is still one of the lowest numbers in Raw history, so you got to caveat the whole thing. I hope it continues. You want every show to do well at the end of it. It's fun to have a laugh when WWE do stupid stuff, but you want the company to do well, because wrestling needs success, and it's... Yep.
I think it will do well, next week. I think they've got, 2 really good matches. Obviously, Owens and Orton, and Bayley versus Asuka for that shot at SummerSlam. And I think all this mad discussion and intrigue around not just Raw Underground, but the loud noise backstage caused by that Retribution faction. I think they will hold, if not increase, next week. I've got to be honest.
I hope so. I hope so. You want to see this stuff do well every single week. I hope we get 7 million viewers somehow out of nowhere. Let's talk about SummerSlam 2020. WWE looking for a location. Can't hold it in Boston, which is where they originally wanted it to. Ongoing global battle. You know the score by now, viewers. You know what's going on in the world. However, it looks like they might have pinpointed the location. Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer Radio, stated that WWE are seriously considering Atlantic City, New Jersey. This is an interesting proposition, as the state governor, Phil Murphy, recently decreased the number of people that can attend an indoor event from 100 to 25. However, if you hold an outdoor event in New Jersey at the moment, you can have up to 500 people there, provided that they are following social distancing regulations. So we've heard reports that WWE were thinking about holding this show on a cruise ship and also a goddamn beach. Well, Atlantic City is famous for its beaches. There's 2 things I know about Atlantic City. Number 1, The Sopranos was probably around there somewhere. And number 2, it has at least 1 beach. So there you go. Should be noted as well that the indie group Game Changer Wrestling actually just held 2 events outdoors in Atlantic City on the Garden Pier. Those shows were really cool to look at because they're just on a pier and then there's the ocean in the background. Such a cool aesthetic. Obviously, you'd think WWE would probably look for somewhere a little bigger because there was, I think, only a couple of dozen people at these GCW events. Either way, I would love to see a wrestling show on the beach, provided everyone is safe and those little scamps are 2 meters apart.
I would love to have a crowd back that isn't controlled by WWE, first of all. So long as, yes, like you say, medically it's cleared and what have you. Yeah, okay. SummerSlam on a beach it is. Myself and Sidgwick booked the show a while back and I think we nailed it. So check that out. It's available to the podcast right now if you search for WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from. Final story of the day surrounds 2 NXT wrestlers that could be heading to SmackDown to help out King Corbin in his presumably ongoing feud with Matt Riddle. Obviously offered out that King's ransom recently, and I believe... I don't know what he's called now. I'm going to call him what he should be called. Chad Gable may have collected some of it, if not all of it, by, I assume, turning heel on last week's SmackDown. I really like last week's SmackDown the more I think about it, actually, with stuff like that. Well, according to Fightful Select, we are going to see the likes of Danny Burch and Killian Dane showing up on SmackDown to form King Corbin's posse. Have to be careful how I say that word. What do you reckon to this, Andy Murray? I love Killian Dane. Obviously, we got to work with him in the past, and he just looks like a big, horrible bastard who should fit right in with King Corbin. It's
an interesting group of dudes, isn't it? A lot of follically challenged gentlemen coming together. You got Baron Corbin, obviously, part of the club. Danny Burch, part of the club. And then you've got Killian Dane, who looks like he's heading that way as well, brother. You've got a reckoning with the shaver coming your way in the next few years. That, of course, is going to be the key of the stable. It's going to be a bunch of bald guys. It's a weird group of dudes. Danny Burch has been in the WWE system for something like 10 years with a 1-year gap. Dane has had a weird run. He was the guy I kind of figured would be a bigger thing by now because... he's a big guy, but he can do some cruiserweight stuff as well, and he's a really safe worker as well. He's not just going out there beating the crap out of people. Like, his stuff looks really clean, so you'd think Vince McMahon would look at a guy like that and go, oh yeah, pal, let's make some goddamn money. But it hasn't really come together. Sanity bombed on the main roster. They just didn't use them for anything. It was kind of weird. Then he went back to NXT. He's not really that prominent in a lot of major storylines and stuff. I think going to SmackDown could be good for him, and hopefully Danny Burch as well. Although I'd hate to see the end of Danny and Oni as a tag team. It's so much fun. But hey, if more people get more exposure and more pay, I'm here for that.
Yeah, that was my concern. That and the fact that they're going to go, Killian Dane, Danny Burch, you're both from England. You know about kings, don't you? Don't say that. I mean, he's obviously not from England, is he, Killian Dane? Think it through, you mindless gits. Right, let's move on to your Twitter questions at WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. Angela Dawn kicks us off. Saying, to the best of your recollection, what specific event in wrestling caused you to become broken for the first time? Mine is when Vince made Trish Stratus strip and bark on live TV.
Yeah. See, for me, the thing with like stuff like the Trish and Vince stuff and some of the other more problematic elements of that era of wrestling is that I was like 12, 13 years old and not really capable of like mentally sitting there and going, oh, this isn't good or whatever. So for me, like, there are two things that stand out immediately. Number one, the thing that just killed my fandom for 3 years was Chris Benoit and what happened there. However, in the context of us being like broken and exacerbated with the program and stuff, coming back for the Summer of Punk and then it ending by Kevin Nash texting himself made me go, fool. What is this? By that age, of course, I was fully able to kind of like objectively break things down and get properly annoyed by stuff. So that's probably where it was for me.
Yeah, I can't specifically pinpoint a time, but it was somewhere amongst all the Cena wins lol stuff that I really just went, nah, don't think I want to watch this anymore. But more recently, so since I've been working for WhatCulture, the obvious ones, Hell in a Cell, and I will always remember that morning coming into work after the Raw with the Usi hot sauce and the wild card rule, and I remember just speaking to some of the guys in the office about how I felt about it all, and they went, just go in the other room, set the camera rolling and talk. And yeah, we've got that captured for posterity now for all the whole time, me just having my first broken episode, first of many. So it's been a joy working here for the last 3 years, and hopefully plenty more of that sort of thing to come. Chris gives us our second question of the day, who says, is there a next move for Kurt Angle? Obviously, he'd be a gift to any promotion he ends up with. Is there any way you'd like to see him, or is it time for a much-deserved break?
Kurt's a tricky one. You never want to sit here and go, get off my TV screen, Kurt Angle, or whatever, but like, his performances, even in kind of like limited speaking roles and stuff, have clearly diminished quite a bit over the past few years. I think he's a guy who has a lot to offer. He's one of the greatest wrestlers of like the past 20, 30 years. Obviously got a lot of knowledge, very clever guy, great worker back in the day. Olympian as well, of course, so, you know, he can pass a lot of legitimate techniques over to people as well. I'd love to see him in a behind-the-scenes role somewhere as a coach or a trainer or whatever, imparting his knowledge on younger people. That might be the best option for him. You can pull him out every now and then when you go, hey, here's Kurt Angle to present a title or whatever. Stuff like that is cool, but other than that, man, I don't know if I want to see him as a manager or anything else. I kind of want to see him happy, healthy, not necessarily pushing himself to be on TV every now and then. He's kind of, you know, passing on to the next generation backstage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Less is more. The occasional WWE appearance, but more of a backstage role would be perfect for someone like him. We're going to get back to Kurt Angle in a second as well. But finally, final question to Mark Solid, who says, what do you guys think about Ricochet turning heel and joining the Hurt Business as the high flyer of the group? The King returns and he'll finally be able to talk without sounding like a jackass.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
It's what they're missing in that group, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, if you look at the complexion, like, style-wise of that group, Bobby Lashley's this big, bruising power. I love Bobby Lashley. He's awesome. Shelton Benjamin's a bit more technical with it. He's still got a great deal of athleticism for a guy in his 40s as well. And then you've got MVP, who's a really well-rounded wrestler. They don't really have like a fast, flippy dude, so I think that's a cool addition. The caveat to that is that I really like Ricochet and Cedric as a tag team. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. They had instant chemistry as soon as they were paired together, so I would kind of like to see that progress, but at the same time, they haven't really done anything with them, so maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Plus, presumably with Raw Underground, they've been watching a bit of Lucha Underground, so I would not be surprised if they went, do you know that bit when Angelico just ran off the roof of somewhere like 20 feet in the air and jumped on some dudes? Trev, can you do that, mate? Yeah, sweet, thanks for that. Right, let's move on to today's, and finally, I just wanted to do something nice, a little nod to Kurt Angle, who tweeted a few hours ago, celebrating 7 years of sobriety today. To all of you who supported me and stood by me through good and bad, I want to thank you for not giving up on me. Salute with a glass of milk in my You Suck cup. Look, wrestlers have a torrid time of it, and they all have gone through some real issues, but great to see someone come out the other side. Such a lovely bloke as well, Andy, and celebrate an incredible achievement that is.
It's a huge victory. All the respect in the world to him for winning that battle for 7 years. Pardon me, my voice just KO'd there. Yeah, good for Kurt, man. His problems are obviously well documented. It's caused him a lot of issues throughout his career and stuff, and his personal life as well, assumedly. Good for him. Nothing but happiness for that man.
Looks great as well in that photo. Kurt, you suck, but you obviously don't suck. Right, let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in this comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dadley Boys previewing the Wednesday Night War a little bit later on today. Plus, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Well, actually, there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for ham, as in full ham. Congratulations to Tony Khan's boys on sealing promotion to the Premier League for what feels like the 7th time in 3 seasons. But hey, they beat Brentford last night, so that's good.
bloody footy, eh?
Hey.
What would we do without it? You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE, as I said. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. Bye!